Hello and welcome to day 21 of October 2025's Adventures in Tarot Casting. We are going over two spreads today, very briefly, the one and then the other I'm going to go a little bit more in depth, but it's, let's just get to it. So the first one I want to touch on is the Tarot in the Houses sticker. This one is a collaboration between me and my friend Erin, who is an astrologer. We have a whole series that is still in the beginning stages of how to use this chart. So basically, you can order a chart from us that has your own personal natal chart in the center, and then the background is actually blue. Mine is a little differently because I was getting creative with it. But so this, I've merged it with the Ancestral just to kind of give you a small show and tell that it exists. And this is part of the Casting Cards Oracle. So I did want to mention it in this series, but I'm not giving it its full video because we've already done a couple hours on this particular sticker backdrop, and how you can use tarot with your own natal chart. So this is Tarot in the Houses. If you do end up ordering one from us, it will have your birth chart in the center, and the wheel will start with wherever your ascendant is. So be sure to go check out those videos with Erin and I. And now let's get to the Ancestral. So the Ancestral Connections, this one is based off of a family tree. And I was inspired by some of the work that Nancy Hendrickson did with her Ancestral Tarot to create a spread, that is my own tarot genealogy. And so I didn't do a very elaborate page that is opposing in my book because I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory. So basically, we have this tree, which is our, you hear about the family tree. The base of the tree is me or you, or, if you don't have sets of tarot tiles, then that's okay. Just clear off your table and just use this as a reference point to jump off from, right? I have on the card here, it says, for the sake of this spread and the limited space, I suggest using tarot tiles for the mother line and father line. However, you can absolutely clear a table and use larger cards if you do not have tiles. Also, feel free to mix in multiple decks. That way you can see if there's similar cards that pop up, right? It's kind of neat. I'm not going to get super in-depth, but I just want to show you how this works. Again, when I was creating this, I had almost like, you'll see sometimes the Fool's Cliffs show up in a lot of my art because I always circle it back to the tarot in some way. As an oracle card, this could tell you, if you're using this spread as an oracle, to connect with your roots, connects with your ancestors. Maybe there's something that they want to tell you. So if that comes up, it would say, okay, this is about, the ancestors that came before. You could even pick, say you want to, if you're adopted or if you don't know a lot about your family history, you could say, okay, I want to just focus on the energy around my mother or the energy around my father or the energy around my great-great-great-grandmother, and pick a card for them and just trust that their energy is going to show up in the reading. And then you can do maybe instead of doing these as family members, you could do these as contributing factors to somehow how it is affecting that energy, right? So for the sake of this demo, this is a personal oracle deck that I created. It's called the Living Proof Oracle, and it's blended photos of me throughout different stages of my life with, just keywords on it. So I have one that's called The Guide, and that's with my great aunt Elizabeth. So I figured this would be a really cool card for me. Or you could pull out a signifier that is like if you are a Page of Wands, you could put a Page of Wands there. But I wanted to give both my family lines their own set of tiles, right? And obviously, I understand that I'm privileged because I have them since I'm the creator of these decks. So I have the tiny Sawyer's Path tiles that I'm going to pair with my mother line because she's a little bit more quirky and colorful and fun and this and that, you know. And then my father line, I'm going to pair the traditional Rider-Waite, the 1909 tiny tiles. These are both tiny sets. Because they're more structured, more work-oriented. I feel like those two energies just make more sense, like when pairing it. So what you can do is you can, you know, just pull them out. So I have my Rider 1909s over here, and then I have my Sawyer's Path right in front of me here. So I'm going to pull a tile to represent my mother, and I'm just going to let the energy show up, right? And I have on here, like, this is the core energy of them, and I have the Lovers. And, you know, I'm not going to go too deep into my family to say, well, that tracks, right? And so then I'm going to pull a card for my dad. And he is now one of my actual deceased ancestors. So let's see how his energy shows up. And I have the Seven of Swords. And again, without getting too much into it, I'm going to say that that could also track. And then you pull some energy, you know, for my mom's. And I'm going to keep this layout. So I'm going to work with my mom's side first, and then I'm going to do my dad's side. And so it's now we're going to go to her mother and father, and then her, you know, so this side here is going to be my actual mother line. So it's my grandmother and then my great grandmother. And then if you wanted to on the table, you could continue out generations if you want. About once a year, I go deep into my own ancestry. So I've been able to trace back to like the 1500s, you know, for my own personal family. I find it fascinating. I remember once I was interviewing my grandmother on my dad's side, and because I was like at a roadblock with Ancestry.com, and it's because I didn't realize that my grandmother had like, that she went by her middle name. You know, so in interviewing her, and I found out that what I had known her, she and her mother had the same first name, but they both went by their middle names. And so that opened it all up. It was pretty neat. But okay, so let's get to my mom. We're going to pull one for her mom and one for her dad. So her mom, we've got the Nine of Pentacles. And her dad, so there's my grandma and grandpa, we have the Ace of Pentacles. And these energies, you know, they could be the core energies of maybe what they are experiencing now, now that they're no longer in the living world. It could be maybe their hopes and dreams for me. You know, like when you go at these spreads, you can really set the intention to have a conversation. Like just because somebody's no longer in the living, you can still have conversations with them through tarot and the symbols, which is one of the things that's really cool. And then now we have my grandma's mom and dad, and I just pulled two cards out, and we've got the Knight of Swords and the Three of Swords. And then for my grandfather's mother and father, we have the Four of Pentacles and then the Five of Swords. It was funny. One time I did this, you know, this is probably too much information, but one time I was doing this and so many cups came up. And the first thing that I could think of on my mother's side was with all the cups was, you know, there is a history of alcoholism in that side of my family. And I was like, well, there it is right there. You know, being a demo, this is just kind of like me showing you some things. Like I can see patterns, but I'm not having an actual conversation with all these people. They might be a little shy. So we're going to go with my grandmother on my dad's side. And we have the King of Pentacles. And my grandfather on my dad's side, we have the Eight of Pentacles. And then for my grandmother's mother and father, mother, we have the Knight of Wands, and then Judgment. And that's very interesting, just interjecting right now, because the Knight of Wands, like, so my grandmother on my father's side, while I may not have known a lot about their history, I knew a lot kind of about like their upbringing. And I know that her mother chose to be a single mom during a time when women didn't do that, so the judgment of seeing her, leaving my great grandfather in order to raise a child in that time of like women's suffrage. And, it's just like, I see that Knight of Wands being like, yep, not going to partake in that, And so then on my grandfather's side, we have his mother and father. And so the mother, we have the Four of Pentacles, which is kind of funny because that's the same exact position. So you can see that these two women had similar energies. And then we have the Ten of Swords for my great-grandfather. So this is just a way, like, if I were to say, hey, I'm trying to figure out where this insert ism comes from in my familial line, and that is like the intention that I'm setting before I sit down to work with my ancestors, it's really interesting to see what comes up, which is why I suggest using a couple different decks, because then it gives them the full energy of it, and to see, all of these make up me and all these make up me, and then they bring me here. And then you could see the patterns. You can see, like, I know that my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side were very, they wanted more for us. But it's funny to see that this generation is all pentacles, so my mom and dad, we have like this is the lost generation that's going on in here. And then these were the great generation. And then this is the boomers here. So it's like seeing how they play out, like this is very work oriented. They had to go through the Great Depression, so money was a big thing, and like trying to make sure that their resources were about them. And then you go to the generation before that, and we have just a lot of like swords and kind of judgment and turmoil, and that Four of Pentacles up in here on both sides of these grandmothers is showing that these women had to learn how to conserve their resources. They really stretched a dollar or a penny or whatever it was at that time, that, like seeing that and seeing how it comes out, and you start to see them really unfold and say, I wanted to know more about this particular grandmother. I could take this card and put it here and do a whole line of that, so that's just a way of connecting with the ancestors. This would be a really good spread to do around Halloween, November 1st, because the veil is really thin this time of year, and we are entering into the 12 days of till Halloween. So it's a really great time for ancestor work. It's a really great time to connect with those who, without them, we would not be here, right? And I remember reading somewhere once, it was like, connect with your ancestors, especially the ones that are departed. They could even be people who aren't blood related that you connect with, because they've already known what it's like to be in a human body in this world, right? And so through that, we can connect with them, and we can just ask for advice and guidance, and just kind of put out there like help, and see what messages come through. It's a really fun and interesting way to connect with parts of you that maybe you don't understand. You'd be like, why do I have a financial wound? Where does that come from? Even though I know everything's fine, why are there times where I'm still stressed about money or resources, and that can come up through here. Or why can I not stop thinking about this, and this? And you can go into it and you can say, well, this grandmother, grandfather, there was very much grief going on, lots of swords, lots of thoughts. And this one, maybe he was absent, and there was like, she had to conserve because there was like no winning, and like you can go through it and just really see where things come. It's juicy when you know parts of it. of the family line and the family history, because then you can get an affirmation. But even if you don't know it, you can uncover certain energies about it, and it's very, it's just very telling. It's very, and if I wanted to go forward and do more, I could go, okay, like we know about this, so let's bring these down, and you can just keep building onto your ancestor family tree. It's kind of really interesting and neat. So let's push this out of the way and see what we're working with tomorrow. Let's see. Oop, we have a jumper, so we're going to go with that one. Visionary. So tomorrow we are going to be working with this one. This is a new casting sticker based off of a demo that I did on how to use the templates that we have, and it'll be one of the first times I use it for a spread, and it'll be fun. So we'll be back tomorrow for that one. And again, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have a way of working with the ancestors, definitely comment and let us know. If you've used this, if you've had any insights. I mean, you don't have to get personal if you don't want to. And, just like and comment and subscribe to my channel, and be sure to tell all your friends. And I will see you here tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.